Hey, what's up, folks? Hope you're doing just fine. We just wanted to share a little something. And if you are somebody who's like enthusiastic about science, you probably know what is happening currently at this moment that is worth talking about and worth giving a little commentary work on. And this is the launch of the James Webb Space Telescope, which is officially going to replace the Hubble Space Telescope, which has been hovering around the cosmos for close to 30 years now. And it's finally come to that time when it needs to be replaced because of certain limitations that it has. And hopefully we know confidently that the James Webb Telescope is going to do even far greater things than what the Hubble Space Telescope has achieved. So in this little video session, me and my friend Gerald, we just wanted to kind of touch a little bit of what that is going to mean for humanity, what's going to mean for how we understand our place in the world, and not only in the world, but in the whole universe, just what place we occupy as humans, and what great discoveries are going to come out of this new James Webb Space Telescope that has just been launched. So to start this session, I just want to bring in Gerald and just give a few comments on what you think is going to come out of this and just the expectations and the takeaways.
Thank you so much, Siraf, and I think I'm really glad to be here and discuss what's going on, especially in the world of science.
Yeah.
Lots of the James Webb. Wow. I think for people to understand what the James Webb is, I'd love to give them a brief background of what we've had in the past. So about 30 years ago, we had the telescope that was launched, and that was the Hubble. So the Hubble has been in orbit for close to 30 years now.
Yeah.
And I think with the Hubble in place, humanity has been able to somewhat get some amount of information about where they belong in the cosmos.
Yeah.
And not just that, we've gotten to see beyond what the normal telescope could make us see.
Yeah.
So the Hubble has run its race. It's done amazing things. It's beautiful how at some point people didn't know we actually had a multiverse. And because of the Hubble, people get to know, to understand that there's a multiverse out there, and that in every constellation, there are so many things, and there's actually scientific proof now that there are planets that have microscopic beings on them,
true,
biological beings. So that is what the Hubble has done for humanity.
And just in addition to that, I like that point that you brought out, that what the Hubble Space Telescope could achieve is something that you couldn't achieve with the land-based telescope. And just to give some context, the Hubble Space Telescope is called the Hubble Space Telescope in respect to Edwin Hubble. Edwin Hubble was an astronomer, or better yet, a lawyer that turned into an astronomer. So his fascination was basically to understand just at what rate the universe was expanding. So he decided to design these huge land-based telescopes, and they could peer into space for quite good distances, and they helped him understand that our universe is actually expanding, and we could probably understand even this theory of inflation and stuff like that. But there were limitations that these land-based Hubble telescopes had, which was like they couldn't properly peer through our atmosphere. Because of that, we're getting a lot of fuzzy images and blurred images. But so people decided later on, after Hubble did his thing, because scientists always build on each other's accomplishments. So they decided, how about we make a whole telescope, at least the size of a big bus, and then we just put it out there beyond our atmosphere, where we'll be able to get better images which are sensitive to light and stuff like that, which aren't blurred by the atmosphere. And they did just that. And the Hubble came in and just broke that miracle for us. Yeah.
Beautiful. And I think, it's the constraints that human beings had to go through to just build that particular piece of art, if you'd have to call it that way. I think the first launch that NASA did, they couldn't get a very good image of what was going on, because apparently some of the mirrors are not placed in the right places. But then after a few corrections, magic happened, and we're able to see the universe expand in our very
In fact, it made a lot of news when when they found out that the Hubble Space Telescope was sent into orbit with a bad mirror, with a flawed mirror. It was like it was considered an amateur mistake. It was like it made a lot of news and it was embarrassing. But what was good about it was they never gave up. It's like, and this was a time when science was really fueling, especially in countries like the USA and the USSR. And this was like the John F. Kennedy time, so it was like we didn't start going we didn't go to the moon because it's easy. We went to the moon because it's hard. And because it's hard, we're still going to send out telescopes out there, even though it's not going to be easy. So if they gave up, we wouldn't even have had all these discoveries.
I think just riding on that, we had the first rocket, if I were to put it that way, that was a failed mission. It should be the Shutter, is it? Shutter or Shutter, one of the two. I'll get my facts straight. You'll find them in the comment section. So we had the first failed mission, and about 7 people died. So people had been making strides even before the Hubble, But then now we have the James Webb Seraph, and I think it's beautiful that this is 100 times more powerful than the most powerful telescope we have right now.
Exactly.
And I think just riding on that, I'll throw the question back to you, Emmanuel. Riding on that, what does this mean for the layman?
So what this can mean for the layman is, okay, it depends again. The layman, for this stuff to matter to you personally, you need to be somebody who has a certain appreciation for science. So if you're too much of a lay person, I think you won't be able to translate what this will materialize in. I can give you an example of, say, there was this photo that the Hubble Space Telescope took, I think in the 1990s, or to be more accurate, maybe in 1995, which we've come to know as the Hubble Deep Field. And the Hubble Deep Field just looked like a picture full of stars and stuff like that. But then when scientists peered deep into the picture and tried to really study it, they found out that in a tiny space, in a tiny patch of space, there were like a whole bunch of galaxies in that picture. And just think of the size of a galaxy. Usually people think the solar system is big, but the solar system is just one thing inside our Milky Way galaxy, and the galaxy has like a bunch of other solar systems. I can put it like that for you to understand just how big it is. Now imagine in this little fuzzy piece of space, there are like a bunch of galaxies. Now what this can mean for a lay person is, what are the chances that in all these galaxies there isn't a planet like our own with even more complicated things or people like us asking the very same questions that we too are asking today. Imagine that if that wasn't the case. So what it can mean for the layperson is it helps you understand your place in the world and just appreciate what that means. It shows you how small you are. So the more we make more discoveries, the layperson can be more humble to know their place in the world.
I think it's beautiful that you put it that way. I'd love to understand that human beings are always looking for an alternative.
Yes.
More like a contingency plan. So the Earth is somewhat getting to its ruins because of human activity and so on and so forth. So human beings are constantly looking for an alternative. So for the James Webb, people are more optimistic that maybe they'll get to find a second home for human beings. And maybe not only that, then there could be some technology out there that we do not understand that would make use of on Earth. Say, for example, we have issues of global warming right now. That could be the answer, Who knows? Maybe we could be getting excess oxygen from Mars or somewhere else and bringing it to Earth.
And talking of places, talking about other planets that are habitable for life, and all these exoplanets. Of course, it's an extreme. It's to jump so far to say that
you're leaping too far.
Already, the James Webb Telescope is going to find us a habitable home that is better than it. Already, there's like a lot of work going into just the Mars exploration. We sent probes there to explore Mars to find out if there are craters there and if there's actually a possibility of some even microbial life. Because that can be a game changer. If we could find a home where we could go to, that's not even just go to, but just find a place that had some form of life. And why I like that thing is because here's what it's going to mean for humanity, or here's what it's going to mean for people like you and me. So if we find out that there's a planet that actually at some point had life, then it means life is not unique in the universe. It means
it exists elsewhere.
It means it exists elsewhere. We're not so special as we might think we are. We're not unusual, and we're not. How can I put it? We're not so torn apart from everybody else. We could just be one among the many.
The many, yeah.
And maybe the other creepy looking stuff. Maybe they're not even creepy. Maybe they're just normal, sophisticated human beings asking the very questions that we always ask. Are we alone in the universe? Are there people out there and stuff like that?
I think riding on that, it's beautiful to note that life keeps expanding. So if life keeps expanding, it means it happened some time back. The sun itself, we see it some 8 minutes ago. You see, so there's so much understanding that we pick. The Hubble was able to see about 11 billion light years into the past. That's the Hubble. Now we're talking about the James Webb. The James Webb is 100 times more powerful. What can this thing not do?
It can be a total game changer. Probably we even change how we understand theories like the Big Bang and all this stuff. So like talking of just that time lapse with how we see light and how we view things. An interesting fact about telescopes is like they're time machines. People like to think time machines are like stuff that are only in the movies.
But a space takes you to 1955.
Like a telescope is basically a time machine. It helps you peer into the past. I mean, when you're stargazing at night, you're basically looking into the past, but not further enough. But a telescope gives you the privilege to look further. We could even put a number on the birth of our universe and say it's like 13.5 billion years ago, because we base that fact on just how much we could look with our telescopes. But just imagine now that we have the James Webb Space Telescope. It's going to be totally a different game changer. Maybe we'll even find out new theories about the history of the universe, how we came about, how everything started, because just looking at the size of everything else, you even brought up earlier like this issue of a multiverse. A multiverse doesn't look so extreme when you understand the size and everything else. That's why some scientists and astrophysicists like who's this guy, Roger Penrose, like to say that our universe is basically like a breakaway from another universe. What we call the Big Bang today was basically like the end of another universe, of a prior universe. And all this stuff can even become more clearer and easier to understand when you have something like the James Webb up there.
I like that you're going back to that. I was reading actually off the internet an article that was saying, if truly the Big Bang happened, then human beings are like the miracle. Let me not just say human beings. Earth itself is like a miracle that happened by a very small chance, by a very, very small chance. Because on a scale of like 1 to 100, and human being existing after the Big Bang, the percentages are still in its 0 point something. So this new innovation, this new creation by science, will make us understand if truly human beings are a source of miracle works, or there was some other terrestrial beings that existed before us, and then we're simply a breakaway, because that is simply what the Big Bang says, But then how an explosion can produce so much life at such articulate measurements, it's quite good.
And people usually have a bone to chew with this idea, because most of the times what most people think is, I heard a joke one time where somebody says, so you think we're here because something went kaboom, and then next minute you have a well-organized planet. This whole planetary system nicely based, and just the space in which our planet like orbits, that nice tiny balanced space called the Goldilocks zone. How do you think it just came about by accident? You know what I mean? All those are good questions. But the Big Bang is not just a bomb that exploded or a firework of sorts. It's basically noticing that everything in the universe is in expansion. Like everything is expanding and receding from each other at a faster rate. So if you're a normal thinking person, you're going to ask yourself, if things are expanding towards like a certain direction, or they are just receding from each other, obviously at some point, if you just track back so fast, there was a point where everything was together, just squeezed together, And then there was that point at which they started to expand into everything we know. that is basically the Big Bang at most. But people don't want to understand or find any means in which to fully grasp that, because they have certain ideas that they hold dearly which run counter with such ideas, and it's understandable, But if you can't even understand the Big Bang at this rate, how are you going to be in a better position to appreciate the discoveries that are going to come out of the James Webb? It's just sudden.
And what's funny is most people haven't taken keen interest in these things.
Yeah.
It's like everybody just adopts one particular area of interest and just focuses on that. People are not adventurous thinkers, or to put it that way.
Yeah, true.
Most people are comfortable with having a confined amount of knowledge and not looking elsewhere.
Yeah.
But then trust me, innovation comes about by looking elsewhere. If somebody didn't wake up one day and see a bird, for example, and think of a machine or a car, because a plane is basically a car, we wouldn't be flying right now.
Yeah.
It means you can't move from Africa to the US in less than a week.
Yeah.
So I think people have to be concerned about these things.
Yeah.
People have to be more involved. Yeah. And now that we have the James Webb, I think at the time when the Hubble was being launched, a lot of people didn't have means of getting to know this particular information. But now I think I've seen the James Webb on places where I...
All right, so there's so much that we can talk about, but there's little time to cover all that information. And if you want to know the ins and outs and the contrasts between the Hubble Space Telescope and the James Webb Space Telescope, this information is all over YouTube. And please don't be misled as to think that we're here to tell you the ins and outs of these two different telescopes. Now we start telling you about the lenses, the mirror size, and shit like that. We're just here to tell you what the implications of the wonders that are going to come out of this. So in wrapping, or rather in closing, how do you think can be the best way to help people have a deep appreciation of science and their place in the world without making them feel they have to rubbish their religious beliefs?
Well, it's difficult to strike a balance sometimes.
Definitely.
Because most people have this notion in mind that if you are, say, a scientist, then you can't be religious.
Yeah.
Which is, if you ask me, a rubbish emotion.
Yeah, definitely.
You can strike a balance. If you want to lean on either side of the equation, well and good. But if you are somebody who would want to strike a balance, I think you can always do that.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's science that helps you understand your religion better.
Yeah.
Because everything that you know about right now is as a result of science.
Yeah.
Had there not been somebody interested in turning trees into paper, you probably wouldn't know what you know now.
Yeah.
Had there not been somebody interested in turning trees into boats for people to bring what you believe in to where you are now, you probably wouldn't believe in what you believe in.
Yeah.
So I think with having that backdrop in mind, it's something that will help you understand where you are as a human being, and maybe understand your higher being better, if we were to put it that way. So you can strike a balance. Religion and science can exactly exist in one environment, and people can talk about it, and you can have these interesting conversations, around science, around religion, and you understand better who you are. Had it not been for science, I'd love to give these examples because I want people to get the context of what I'm trying to drive at. If not for science, trust me, you know very little about yourself. You don't know about your diet, you don't know about your sicknesses, you don't know about how to take care of yourself, but science brought that light to you. So strike a balance, you can do both.
Yeah. And me, speaking as as a heathen, I can tell you unapologetically that, true, science and religion are not compatible, but they can be complementary. They can complement each other. The biggest struggle comes in, personally, the struggle that I had in my religious life when I started to deeply understand science or deeply understand the world in a naturalistic way was trying to reconcile scientific discoveries with literal biblical statements. So you'd find out be struggling to do all these things, but there's always a way you can choose. Some of these things don't have to be really seen in black and white or really seen as they are directly spelled out in religious texts. There's always a way you can try to reconcile the many discoveries that are life-shattering in science and marry them to your religion. A typical example I like to give in situations like this, or when I'm asked this question, is Professor Jordan B. Peterson, who is like a Canadian clinical psychologist. Jordan Peterson has an appreciation of science, but at the same time, he doesn't fully let go of like the contribution that religion has to bring to life, you know. So he understands everything in mainstream science. He's got an appreciation for Big Bang cosmology, for evolutionary biology, and all this stuff. But that doesn't automatically mean that he's supposed to be someone like Richard Dawkins or Sam Harris. He's found a way to just perfectly make everything fit. And there are these people that are called apologists. So these people are basically people that try to bring to you the intellectual side of Christian belief. They try to argue it out using all these philosophical explanations, which is also an interesting thing that you can do. So please don't be misled as to think that if you're going to love science, then you have to let go of your God. No, you don't have to. There are a lot of believing scientists out there. It's just that's a personal journey that you should take. Whatever decision I made or whatever decision he made is directly not of concern to you. You have your own journey and your own intellectual wars to fight. So yeah.
So I think we can quite wrap.
Yeah, I think we can wrap there. All we can do is just wait. I hear it's gonna practically take about 6 months for us to start receiving photos and data from the James Webb Telescope. Until then, we keep waiting with bated breath.
And if you've got anything new that you'd love to update you about, I think we'll be sure to update you. Any questions, leave them in the comment section. And we'll be glad to answer them in the comment section. Or we can make a video just like this one.
Yeah, we'll be like your personal friendly neighborhood scientist.
All right, till next time. Yeah.